Okay, so we hear it all the time, right? Save your money, save your money.
Right.
But then you hear these other voices saying, well, saving money,
Hmm.
that's not going to get you where you want to go, is it?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we're diving into today, right? This idea of don't save money, do this instead and get rich. That's the name of the podcast episode we're looking at. So what do you think? What's the main thrust of it?
Well, the first thing they hit on is this idea of inflation,
Okay.
which is something I think a lot of people don't fully understand.
Well, I think we all get the basics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like prices go up over time, but how bad is it really?
Well, it can be a lot worse than you think.
Okay.
Like, imagine if you have, let's say, $1,000 sitting in a savings account,
Mm-hmm.
and you're getting, I don't know, a whopping 1% interest on that.
Right. The best savings account.
Woohoo! But at the same time, inflation is running at, let's say, 3%.
Yeah.
So you're actually losing purchasing power.
Right.
You're losing money. It's like, they use the analogy of a slow leak in your tire.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
You might not notice it at first, but eventually you're going to be flat.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy because it's not something that you notice on a day-to-day basis.
Exactly.
It
Right.
just kind of slowly creeps up on you. So, okay, if just hoarding money in a savings account isn't the answer, then what do these guys propose?
Well, they go into three main things: stocks, real estate, and starting a business.
Okay, so pretty diverse options there.
Yeah.
Let's start with the first one. Let's talk about stocks.
Okay.
Because I think for a lot of people, that can seem intimidating,
I think so.
right? Like, oh, the stock market, I don't know anything about that. It feels like gambling to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But really, when you're buying a stock, what you're doing is you're buying a little piece of ownership in a company.
Right.
And so as the company grows and profits, the value of your piece, your share, should go up too.
So theoretically, if you own stock in, let's say, like a really successful tech company. Right.
Right. And they're growing really fast, then your investment would grow really fast too.
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially. Okay. But how do you pick the right stocks? Because I'm already lost.
Well, so that's where they talk about index funds and ETFs.
Right.
Have you heard of those?
I've heard of those, yeah, but I don't really understand them.
So basically, they're like a basket of stocks.
Yeah.
So instead of picking individual companies, you can invest in a fund that tracks, let's say, the S&P 500.
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically buying a tiny little piece of like the whole stock market.
So that feels a lot less risky, right?
Potentially, yeah, because it's more diversified.
Okay. But still, the stock market, it's inherently risky, isn't it?
Well, there's always risk involved.
Right.
But if you look at it historically, over the long term,
Okay.
stocks have generally outperformed a lot of other investments. Like, for example, the S&P 500 over the last, I think it's like 90 years, has had an average return of around 10% per year,
Wow.
which is a lot higher than the average inflation rate.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what about real estate? Because that's another one that gets talked about a lot
Yeah.
as a wealth building tool.
Yeah, and this episode points out that you can have rental income,
Okay.
So that can be a steady stream of cash.
Right.
And then also the property itself, hopefully, is going to appreciate and value over time.
Right. So they're talking about like buying rental properties, or are they talking about just home ownership in general?
I think it's kind of both.
Okay.
Because even if you just own your own home, you're building equity.
Right.
And you're not throwing money away on rent every month.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I'd never thought of it that way. But I don't know, real estate just seems like a huge commitment.
Yeah.
Right. You've got your mortgage, you've got property taxes, you've got maintenance.
Yeah, it's not a passive investment.
Right. Exactly.
It definitely takes work and, location matters a lot. Understanding the local market. Being a landlord, if you go that route, it's a lot of responsibility.
That's a lot of responsibility, and it's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
So, okay, so then the third thing that they talked about was entrepreneurship.
Right.
Starting your own business.
Right.
And I think that one, for a lot of people, is the most high risk, but potentially the most high reward.
Yeah.
Right.
I think they make a good point in the episode that it's not just about, making tons of money.
Right.
It's about creating something, solving a problem, being your own boss.
Being your own boss, exactly.
Yeah.
Which for a lot of people is very appealing.
Right.
But it's also terrifying.
Yeah.
And I think the failure rate for new businesses is pretty high, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of businesses do fail, but
Yeah.
they also point out that a lot of those failures are avoidable.
Okay.
If you do your research, if you have a solid business plan, You know, if you get good advice from people who have been there,
Right.
you can increase your chances of success.
So it's all about being strategic and mitigating your risk.
Right.
Okay.
And then kind of going along with that, they talk about investing in yourself.
That was something that really stood out to me in this episode.
Yeah.
This idea of investing in yourself. But what does that actually mean? What does that look like?
I think it's about, constantly learning and growing,
Okay.
whether that's, taking some courses, going to conferences, reading books,
Right.
even just like having coffee with someone in your field that you admire.
So it's about expanding your network, expanding your knowledge base,
Right.
getting new skills, things like that.
Yeah, because that's going to make you more valuable
More valuable to who? To potential employers.
to potential employers, or if you're starting your own business,
Oh, okay, right.
it'll make you a better entrepreneur.
Makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Mhm.
So it's not just about investing your money, it's about investing in yourself.
Right.
And then they talk about the power of compounding, right?
Yes.
They call it financial magic.
It is kind of magical.
I always love that concept, the snowball effect, right?
Yeah, it's basically earning interest on your interest.
Right.
So it starts small, but over time, it can really snowball.
So the earlier you start, the better.
The better, because time is your friend.
Time is your friend when it comes to compounding.
Yeah.
So it's not just about how much you invest, it's about when you start investing.
Exactly. Even small amounts, consistently invested over time can grow into something really significant.
Wow. It's amazing how that works. Okay, so to kind of sum up what we learned from this episode, it seems like the big takeaway is that it's not enough to just save your pennies.
Right.
You really have to think about investing. And not just investing your money, but investing in yourself and exploring these different strategies, whether it's stocks, real estate, or entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and being proactive.
Proactive.
Being informed.
Right.
Not just letting your money sit there.
Right.
Putting it to work.
Yeah. Because money is not just going to magically grow on its own.
No, it needs tending. It needs,
It needs to be nurtured.
nurtured.
Yeah. Okay, but I think for a lot of people who are listening to this, they're probably thinking, okay, great. All this sounds great, but where do I even begin?
Yeah.
It's overwhelming,
That's
right?
overwhelming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can be.
So what advice would you give to someone who's just starting out and they don't even know where to go?
I would say start small.
Okay.
Focus on one thing.
Okay.
Don't try to do everything at once. Pick something that you're interested in, whether it's stocks, real estate, starting a side hustle, and just dive into it.
Okay.
Read about it, listen to podcasts, take some online courses.
Right.
There are so many resources available these days.
And connect with people, right?
Yeah.
Find some mentors.
Find some mentors. Find people who are already doing what you want to do.
Okay, so don't be afraid to reach out and get advice. And don't let the fear of, not knowing enough or making a mistake paralyze you.
Yeah, we all start somewhere.
We all start somewhere, exactly.
Yeah, this deep dive, it's just a starting point.
Right.
It's given us some things to think about.
Ideas to explore.
Yeah.
Different avenues.
Do your own research. Talk to a financial advisor if you need to.
Yeah. So think about your own personal situation. What makes sense for you?
Right.
And then they leave us with a great question at the end, which is, what's one small step you can take today to start putting your money to work for you?
That's a good one.
Yeah, something to think about. All right, well, thanks for diving in with me.
My pleasure.
And we'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.
See you then.